I think we're good to go now.
Yes, we are. We're good to go.
Perfect. Thank you, Crystal. All right. Well, welcome. Welcome to folks who might be viewing online, and welcome to the folks on the Zoom panel for our March 1st edition of the South Glengarry Environment Committee. Okay, so if I know we Crystal circulated our agenda, so I'd like to start with approving the agenda. So did anyone have anything that they wanted to, any additions or changes that they'd like? So it's fairly, our agendas, oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I just see that new business has an A. I don't know if it's missing something or if that's just anticipating that we have new business.
No, that was, sorry, that was just in there. It should have been deleted.
Okay, a good catch. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so if I could have someone to move and second the agenda, please. Thank you. So moved by Angie, seconded by Colleen. So is anyone opposed? So then we'll say it's carried. Thank you very much. Minutes from our last meeting. As I'm saying that, I'm thinking, I don't know if I actually saw the minutes from our last meeting, but it's circulated.
Would you like me to pull them up on the screen? And we can
That'd be great. I'm sorry, I came straight from another meeting to this one and I didn't, and I clearly didn't do a good enough double check. So yeah, if you could put them up, then we can take a quick look and then we could just do it in the moment.
Bear with me, I'm just pulling it up, get the right ones. Okay, can you see, what can you see? Can you see my the generate?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
so you see the
2 pages wide.
Perfect.
Okay, so move this out of the way. So Mike didn't make it at all last time. I thought maybe he came late.
No, he was not in attendance last week.
Okay.
Or sorry, last month.
Could you scroll up your second page a bit, please? Oh, okay, thanks. It was just, that's good.
All right, yeah, that was the landfill scheduling visit in the spring. Okay, that looked good to me. Anyone else have any comments? I need someone.
Me too.
Okay, so you're moving it, Aidan?
Yeah, I can move it.
Thank you. Could someone second? Thank you, Colleen. Anyone opposed? All right, perfect. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes. Is there anything? I think. Yeah, go ahead, Angie.
So I'm just curious about what if administration came up with anything for the bag tags to be sold anywhere else.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Okay, sorry. If the bag tags were able to be sold elsewhere, I think that was in the minutes, if we were able to find other locations for that.
Yep. Did you want to, I see our GM of infrastructure is on. Are you able to handle that question, please?
I can. Thank you, Stephanie. So Angie, no, we haven't made any progress towards that, and we will likely not make, I'm going to be completely honest, not make much progress this year. We've talked with our bylaw enforcement officer. Nope. Is that what her title is, Crystal? Vero's title?
Manager?
Enforcement officer, yeah. Manager of enforcement bylaw.
I am so sorry, Vero. About her experience with dog tags and running around collecting money and kind of making sure that every stock is available everywhere, and we just simply don't have the person power. right now to do something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the follow-up, Angie. Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's fair to say that's a struggle where we have a lot of items on the go, and in some cases we're stretched thin. So I think though there is a recognition that is definitely where we would like things to land eventually, but that perhaps at this exact moment in time it's not feasible. However, probably also as we go forward and starting to reduce the number of bags, the importance of that issue increases as well. So I think it's definitely something we want to talk about probably in the summer. I would say that we need to definitely raise the issue again. Maybe we can look at it then. Any other business arising? No? Okay, great. Okay, well, thanks, folks. So we saw when we logged in that Alex Heyman from Food Cycler is joining us today to give us a presentation. No, at our last meeting, we had a quick overview sort of the survey results of our Food Cycler pilot. And we said that was going to be something we really wanted to kind of take a deeper look at to this meeting and try to come up with some more clear recommendations to council. And so Alex is joining us to help inform us on that journey. So welcome, Alex.
Hi, Stephanie and everybody else. I've got a brief presentation for you today. If I could get the sharing privileges, please, I'll pull that up.
Sure thing.
Crystal will hook you up.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So in the presentation, I'll give a bit of an overview of the survey results we've been getting back, and hopefully I'll be able to get some direction from this committee on what some next steps could be. There's a fair amount of information in the presentation, so feel free to kind of interrupt at any time if anybody has questions or comments. Hopefully we can make this more of a conversation than just a presentation. And as you get asked in all meetings, can everybody see my screen?
Looks good to me.
Perfect. Just move that here. Okay. So as you know, I'm calling in from Food Cycler today. You likely have seen this before. We work with over 30 municipalities in Canada, have a variety of partnerships. Last year, we're actually named one of Globe and Mail's fastest growing companies in Canada and won a Clean Technology Award from Deloitte for some of the work we've been doing with our technology. So I thought I'd share that the company continues to see traction in both our municipal and non-municipal solutions. The township of South Glengarry was one of the first to try a pilot program with us. And since then, over 33 Canadian municipalities have taken similar steps to try out this technology. So thank you for being one of the first to try this out, as many others have followed in your tracks. Some notable municipalities nearby would be South Stormont and South Dundas, also running very similar programs to what you did. I think South Stormont just got launched a few weeks ago, and South Dundas will be following suit soon. Again, they've taken all the lessons from what was learned from pilots just like yours. So as a quick recap of the program you ran, this program was funded in part by Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge. It involved 100 participating households, and the township contributed approximately $10,000. The program ran officially from August through October, though we expect that most people continue to use their Food Cycler devices. We tracked usage for about 12 weeks, and then there was a survey to provide the data back to participants and a few prizes given out with the survey. I just want to give a shout out to Crystal, who's here, to say thank you very much for the great job you did managing the program. There were many very positive comments in the survey pointing out your leadership in running this program. So thank you very much for the great job you did, Crystal. And the results you've kind of been waiting for, we had 88 people complete the survey, which out of 100 is very, very good. One of the best survey completion rates we've seen so far. So your residents are very engaged. We saw an average of about 6 cycles per week during this period, or equivalent to about 260 kilograms of food waste processed per year. On average, we expect that annual potential diversion is closer to 300, since you do see a bit more food waste generation in the summer months in May through July and August, due to there's more fresh food you're buying, corn on the cob, stuff like that. Monthly garbage was reduced by at least 1 bag for 75% of participants, with majority being 1 bag per month reduced. So this is a pretty significant amount of diversion. That's great to see. 3/4 of participants were motivated to waste less food in the first place. And we see that in a lot of our pilot programs, that having to put all your food waste into that small bucket makes you aware of how much food waste you're making. And hopefully you start buying a little bit less, maybe being a bit more careful with your leftovers, making sure to eat them. So reducing your food waste is always better than having a good way to deal with it. About 70, oh, sorry, go ahead, Stephanie.
Yeah, the 260 kilograms per year, that is per
household.
Unit? Per household, perfect. That's what I thought, just wanted to be clear.
And most of the households we saw had 2 members, I believe, which I think is fairly typical for the area based on StatsCan data. Just finishing out the results, 75% think their friends and neighbors would be interested in a similar program. 4.6 out of 5 kind of overall rating. 91% would recommend the food cycler to others, and 95% will keep using it after the pilot program. So overall, we're very pleased to see very positive results from all those who participated. Just pause here and ask if anyone has questions or comments on these results.
I was doing the quick math in the background, like that many kilos per about 5,000 households. I'm like, that's 1,300 tons, potentially. That could be diverted. Sorry, I just jumped in on that one. Did anyone else have a comment? Anyone else want to say something?
Okay, I'll keep going. I pulled out a few comments from the pilot program. It might be a little bit hard to read on the screen, but people saying they're extremely happy, made them aware of their daily waste. People appreciated learning a bit more about climate change. Some people did not know about the impact of putting their food waste into landfill. Some people say they weren't interested first and now they would be lost without it. But probably the comment that stuck out to me the most was people just not knowing about the environmental impact of food waste and whether they continue to use the food cycler or something else like a backyard composter. This has educated a number of people about the impact that food waste in our landfills have on climate change. So we see that as a very positive outcome as well. And I believe the committee has the full survey results of all the comments, and so you're welcome to read through those as well. So based on some data we found from the county, we put together a bit more information about waste costs and what we would expect with an expanded food cycler program. And at the end, we'll be asking for some direction on how we could move forward. So based on the data in that report, we see the cost of waste, including both collection and disposal, at about $258 a ton. Similarly, the Cornwall MRF charges about $300 a ton for recycling processing only, plus about $80 per household per year for collection. And the collection is based on the latest waste contract that South Glengarry signed late last year. Based on some data from the Government of Ontario, curbside organics programs, or green bin programs, in other words, typically cost about $300 a ton for collection and processing. Then with the food cycler, we saw annual diversion of between 250 and 300 kilograms. So all that to say is that waste is extremely expensive. It's getting more expensive as the price of fuel goes up, as there are shortages of people to drive trucks, and diversion is expensive as well. As we think about ways to potentially expand the program, we've made a few assumptions. Based on the results, we saw significant interest in this program. We saw many people thinking their neighbors would be interested. But we also need to acknowledge that due to the mix of urban, rural, and agricultural properties, multiple solutions are needed. Not everybody will benefit from a food cycler. Many people already backyard compost. And so we want to be careful to allow choice and have a solution that fits for everybody. Why would someone who has a farm, for example, need something like a food cycler when they have a solution already? And I think kind of building on that point, those with existing solutions might be reluctant to pay for a green bin program for everybody else if they already have a solution in place, especially considering that many green bin programs have relatively low adoption rates. Ottawa's is 57%, and Sudbury's about 27%. We really think the food cycler has a place, particularly in urban areas, for those that don't want to backyard compost or who might only compost seasonally. And if we do have an expanded food cycler program, you might want to consider offering some kind of a drop-off. There could be a lot of benefits, less bears, less pests, some operational efficiencies if we have less waste going into the system. And then most importantly is the greenhouse gas reduction. So we've done some calculations, and if you got 2,000 households using this, it's the equivalent of about 1,700 cars off the road, which is not insignificant, really due to that methane being so potent. So our goal today is to kind of receive your feedback on the pilot program, what you could see as options for expansion. And from there, we'd hope to work with township staff on some different options and then bring them back to this committee and council for further decision or direction, and hopefully have some way to expand the program and get more people in South Glengarry diverting their food waste. As a few discussion points, I wanted to mention our company is looking into different programs designed for municipalities with lease options, more rental options that include filters, maintenance, repairs. Those are things that would keep the units out of landfill and allow us to repair them when they break down. We're also looking to bring out a new model later this year, which will offer a higher capacity per cycle and a longer lifespan. So increasing the amount of food it can process while reducing the environmental footprint at end of life. And the final kind of point I'll leave you with is the more waste we can deal with on site, and it's always going to be more cost effective than putting more trucks on the road to collect it. So that's the end of my presentation. I'd welcome any feedback from the committee members.
Okay. Who would like to go first? Oh, Angie, go ahead.
Trying to be polite with the raise hand function. So you had mentioned that somebody had learned more about climate change and how methane comes out of landfill because of the food waste. Do you provide them with educational materials with this, or is that something they would have researched on their own, or just wondering if that was a direct learning experience from your program or from your unit?
We do have a number of frequently asked questions in our resident guide that definitely point to some of the climate benefits of diverting your food waste. I can't say whether those comments were from reading the resident guide or maybe doing their own research, but not just in South Glengarry, but in all municipalities. Usually there's a few comments about learning that putting food waste in the landfill does lead to methane gas. So across the board, we're really encouraged to see those comments.
And I think I'll pass it to you, Aidan, in a moment. I think Crystal, maybe if you want to correct me, but I think we did, when we handed out the units, there was that documentation with it, was there not?
Yeah, exactly. There was the resident guide that went to everyone who participated that gave that information. Food Cycle Science did a really good job giving those really quick facts. And it's something I can actually share with the Environment Committee too. Maybe I have, but I'm thinking not. Yeah.
I don't think so, because not everyone in the committee was lucky enough to win the lottery either. So I don't think they would have seen that.
Yeah, I can share that in the minutes for next meeting if you'd like.
Thank you, Crystal.
Yeah.
Aiden, go ahead.
So I guess reading through the stats, I noticed that it was about 31% of the participants that weren't running any sort of compost program. Is there a way of targeting more of these people in like a marketing ploy or something like that? Just instead of like we already have a lot of compost going on, is there a way of getting the people that aren't thinking about the compost involved?
I think if we were to design an expanded program, you definitely want to target, first of all, those putting their food waste into the garbage, and then second, those that might only compost during the summer months. I think it might be challenging to offer a municipally funded service that only certain people would be able to access. So it might be more of a question for staff as to how you would promote it to ensure a maximum amount of net new diversion, but definitely our focus would be on those that aren't doing anything right now.
I guess the question would be if you guys had any promotional, like any experience doing that beforehand.
We have not yet through our municipal programs. It's always been open to the general public. But I think that's something we would want to look at if the program did expand.
All right.
Thanks. Colleen, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question going back to the education thing and notifying the residents about using it. I noticed a lot of the comments, people were getting food stuck in the machine or they had to clean it out a lot. I'm just wondering if there's, like, were they told what can go in it and what shouldn't go in it and that kind of thing, given education there? Because I have a coworker here that has one, and he said he's kind of had to learn through it, like, oh, the food got stuck, but it's because I put this in it, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll say with the current model, there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve as you get used to using it and learn that some foods can sometimes jam up a little bit. We're looking to solve that problem in two ways. First of all, through expanding our resident guides to have more information about what can and can't go into the food cycler. Then also in new products, we've got a more robust design where that just doesn't happen through better engineering. And we believe that through that two-pronged approach, it should significantly reduce the amount of jams and other issues people face.
If we have time before our call is over, I'll share a photograph of something that got jammed in ours. Someone put a fork in it by accident.
Yeah, that would fall into our not recommended materials.
But you'll see that it's quite amazing in that the fork clearly was the loser in that encounter, but the machine just has kept working. There hasn't been problems since we extricated the fork. So I'd add to the comment that Aidan made about people who weren't composting before were composting. I think your point is well taken about how you always want to get best bang for your buck, right, in terms of targeting people. But I think part of that has to do with there's a bit of a charge for the unit, right, as opposed to giving it away for free. The folks who are already doing it would see less value, right, in terms of maybe outlaying some money towards a unit. That may be one way. I'm just throwing this out as something to consider. But also, like in our case, we definitely composted, but the food cycler has certainly caused us to compost. Sorry, I said recycle. To compost more, and that we weren't doing meat products or bones before, whereas we do that now because we didn't want to put that out in the recycling. And we're a lot better about recycling through the winter. It used to be when the indoor compost container would get full and we couldn't kids were avoiding putting it out. We then, once it got full, instead of, we sometimes put stuff in the garbage. So I think it did increase our amount of recycling. Here, I'm going to quickly show you a photograph. I'll show you the photograph of the fork. So if is my screen, do you see a bent photograph?
It's like
a
art.
bent fork? Pardon me?
Somebody would create that as art.
I know, eh? It's quite...
You could probably sell that for like hundreds or something. Art.
I'm not a renowned artist, so I don't think it has any value, but there you have it. But yeah, so the machine's quite robust. That's also an explanation of how robust the machine is. But to your point, Colleen, about things jamming, that probably makes that's probably something that maybe moving forward there could be sort of. I noticed like on some of the Facebook groups, or I think it was on one of the Buy Nothing groups, maybe it was whatever group it was, someone commented about, oh, I'm interested in getting a food cycler. Do you guys like yours? And it was just reams and reams and reams of positive comments about them. So probably it's the kind of thing that if there was a place where folks could chat about their experiences with it, maybe some of these best practices about, what jams and what doesn't jam, you might get some, what do they call it? The crowdsourced feedback, best practices.
One of the comments said, "Don't put full bananas in it." I had a laugh at that.
Eat your banana first.
Said it jammed when I put a full banana.
I was surprised that there's 2 people that don't even use the municipal recycling program. Like that is just.
I noticed that one too. That stuck out for me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Surprising for us as well. Usually people that are signing up for this are pretty avid recyclers, already doing what they can to participate. So I'd be curious to understand why they aren't using the recycling system, but they'd want to join this program.
It could be, like we do have some private roads within the township that don't, the level of service to the house is different. It's sort of like they have to bring their garbage and recycling sort of quite a bit further than other places, just because like the private road is not built to the standard necessarily to have, large trucks going down regularly. So maybe it could be. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So one thing in terms of questions and maybe opportunity for education, there was many comments made about how much electricity does this use, and is it really like a net positive? And I think that somewhere, in terms, especially in Ontario, where like so much of our base load is nuclear and has, very low greenhouse gas emissions, but to start with, I think maybe that might be something. I mean, I know you guys operate all around, throughout Canada, and you're probably expanding beyond, but probably for like in the Ontario market, that might be something to maybe expand on in terms of information, because it seemed some people kind of viewed at that negatively, and it could be just because they were missing that baseline information about how much does it actually use. I think there was this impression that it uses a lot of power, and also is that power, what are the impacts of that power? So that's a suggestion.
Yeah, it's a great comment. Most people are quite surprised how little energy it uses. It's about 0.8 kilowatt hours per cycle. And if you look at the carbon impact compared to sending the food waste to landfill, even with electricity, it's about a 95% reduction in carbon compared to landfilling your food waste. And even in jurisdictions which are 100% coal powered, the worst kind of electricity, it's still a net gain to food cycle your food waste versus sending it to landfill. I think that just goes to show how harmful the methane is once you do put that food waste into a landfill. But it's a great comment, and we should definitely expand those education materials.
Go ahead, Aidan.
I'm sure you mentioned it in the first presentation, but when you're breaking down the food products, like what is being emitted or what is happening?
So during the actual cycle, the food waste is pulverized and dehydrated. And so what comes out of the unit is steam. And then once you mix it into the soil at a surface level, that's when it finally breaks down in the presence of oxygen. Okay. Because the high surface area, that breakdown occurs very quickly.
Right.
Angie, go ahead. You're on mute.
I lowered my hand, but I didn't unclick my mute. Back to, sorry, the education. It interests me that 21 people said that it didn't motivate them to waste less food. And I mean, we're trying to do something with the compost, do the food, but it's how it starts. So, you know, getting takeout at a restaurant and then tossing it, or just tossing it at the restaurant saying you don't want to take it. So these food cyclers could run less, have a longer lifestyle if people didn't waste as much food. So, I mean, I'm always somebody that has, oh, look, a quarter of an onion in my fridge. Okay, what can I do with that? Okay, I'll throw it in with this and this. Then you have that, like, you know, Sunday stew with all the leftovers in your fridge. But I mean, restaurants, so much food waste at restaurants. Their portions are massive compared to, like, say, Europe. So I think like education needs to start there. And then your food cycler will last a lot longer, or less things will get stuck in it, like full bananas, if we used it for something, right? So it's kind of like this up here, and then it's the food cycler, and then like there's even more to that to start at the beginning. Just a comment, because food waste is something that really bugs me. And speaking of bugs, was there anything that that would have caused all the fruit flies that some people had mentioned?
I'm not sure why individuals would have seen fruit flies.
Because I don't even get fruit flies in my little compost container at home, and it just sits on my counter for a couple of days, and I bring it outside, but I never have fruit flies ever.
If anything, you should be seeing less fruit flies with the food cycler, because the bucket is smaller, unless you're not storing it as long in between cycles. And definitely the cycles would cook any fruit flies that got into it. So I'm not sure why that would have happened. It's not a comment we usually get. Typically, the main concern is around the capacity of the unit in terms of the kind of feedback of what could be improved.
Would temperature be anything, like depending on the temperature of, I don't really know. I just know fruit flies like fruit and alcohol. But does anybody know if fruit flies are Crystal knows about fruit flies?
I'm just gonna chime in here, because I also had fruit flies this summer with the food cycler. And I think it's just like the time of year. I mean, I didn't have them after the cold weather kind of hit. And so I don't know if that's like a food cycler necessarily problem, or if it's just like the season of fruit flies. Like I keep bananas and apples on my counter sometimes, and that's enough to attract them. But
remind me when the months that were
July.
done. Okay,
July
so
and August.
Hot and humid. Okay.
It was prime fruit fly season.
Okay. When
the pilot project. So I think it just kind of comes with having waste on your counter, whether it's in a bucket or not. They can get in the smallest pinhole. So yeah. Okay.
I'd be curious to cross-reference those comments with if anybody was composting or not before, since if people haven't managed a countertop food waste collection system, they may not be familiar with how to mitigate stuff like fruit flies, but that's just a hypothesis.
Yeah, we definitely were having lots of fruit flies before, like with our regular tabletop compost bucket that we would dump outside. We were always having fruit flies. We would always make little fruit fly traps, you know, with like sugar water, and with the food cycler, no more of those. So we dramatically reduced our fruit fly population in our house.
I wonder if humidity and the like house humidity has anything to do with it. I'm gonna make a note. I'll put that on my to-do list for this month.
Okay. But so going back to our objective for today in terms of making some recommendations. So I think ideally we'd like to make some, and maybe we're not ready yet to make a recommendation at this point to council, but I think that's, that's what we need to be doing. Go ahead, Alex.
If I may, what we've been doing with other municipalities is after presenting the data, the direction we kind of ask for is either kind of do nothing, explore another similar size pilot program, explore a partial rollout, a full rollout, and then, if there is one of the last three options to expand in some way, we'd then work with staff to figure out if there's additional funding out there, what a program could look like, and then bring back a proposal with more details and numbers behind it. So I guess our ask for direction is if you'd support us working with staff on identifying options for next steps, and if you have any feedback on what those next steps could be. I don't know if that helps or not.
Well, it's definitely a good place to start if we think it's a go, no go. So do we want to go around the table and see what folks think in terms of moving forward?
Just one last question before, is there a bigger size?
We will be bringing out a new model of Food Cycler later this year that will have a larger capacity, a longer lifespan, refillable filters, and I think it'll answer a lot of the concerns that were raised by participants during the pilot program. And we'd hope that if you did move forward with some kind of an expansion, that depending on the timing, we could offer that new product to you through a later program.
When do you think how is this what quarter of the year do you think you'll be getting the bigger unit?
Probably in the second half of the year is when it would be available through our municipal programs. Okay. We'll also be offering other options and stuff purchasing. You may wish to lease the units or offer them to rental for residents, but looking at ways where we can not just sell the units, but also offer the maintenance, filters and repair such that residents continue to use them and they can be repaired so they don't reach landfill during the program. That's another piece of feedback we've received, the need for more support, education and maintenance with the municipal programs.
Angie, did you want to go? You wanted to go with your thoughts?
I clicked the wrong button again. Okay, so so like I said, food waste is something that very important to me. I just see this more as like an urban program, and it's just I see a lot of it being like single households with adults only. Would have loved to see more families participate in this, and to have more. I know we don't have that much in South Glengarry, but more like apartment dwellers. I think I mentioned that at the last meeting. I don't know. I think that I feel bad saying that, Alex. I mean, I like your program, I like your ideas, I like everything. I just see it more as an urban program. So I'm kind of on the fence of like what we should do next. With that said, I mean, there are neighboring cities that might be interested, but yeah, so I'm not sure. I think that education for rural residents is key. And this is something that I think people could participate on their own instead of money from the township going towards that. It kind of breaks my heart saying this, but because I like everything about it, but and I like the idea of having the support and not sending it to landfill, because that was my vision, is like having our landfill just full of these disposed, in decades to come. So that's my kind of 2 cents about it at this moment. And also, yeah, I said the apartment part, but yeah, that's what I have to say right now.
Thank you, Angie. Who wants to go? Who would like to go next? Colleen?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Angie on the, I see it more of like an urban thing. I live out in the country and I have a composter outside, so this wouldn't necessarily be all that useful for me. But I do like the idea of looking into the rental options. I think that might be more affordable for people and they might, see the benefit a little bit more that way. But yeah, I definitely see the benefit of continuing on with it, but yeah, I like the rental option.
Thank you, Colleen. Aiden?
Yeah, I'd agree. I have a hard time getting over the 31% or that weren't composting already. Like that's the only conversion rate we had. So I have a hard time getting over that. And I've seen a lot that they need a bigger size. So I would wait until the bigger size came out before we did any next steps personally. I also think we could use money in different ways to convince more people to compost, but that's a personal thought there right now.
Okay. Well, before I see your hands up, Angie, I'll pass it back to you, but maybe I'll share my perspective. So in terms of the cost of the project so far, like the $10,000 that the township contributed to this is pretty, like in the grand scheme of things on the budget of 10 million, and like $1 million is going to waste. It's quite a small investment in the grand scheme of things. So speaking for myself, so I mean we're on a 40-acre small farm. We grow hops. And we are, I have 3 kids, 8, 10, and 12. And we were composting before, but this, the food cycler definitely has increased how much composting we do. Definitely there was stuff that was going into the garbage because of, not wanting to go dump the bin outside, etc. And so we weren't keeping up. Now we keep up very well with it, and we're composting more than what we used to. In terms of meat products, things that we're worried animals were going to get into. And I just, looking, as we're talking, I was sort of looking at some posts that folks have made, local folks, what they've made about having the food cycler. And there's quite a few other people there who are rural properties like mine who are using it significantly and really like it. So I have to admit that when I started, I was sort of like, oh, I don't really see how this is much better than me composting outside. But as we used it more and we got more into a rhythm of it and how we started putting more in it, I think definitely in our case, and I don't know if we're typical or not typical, but I know in our case of a rural property, it definitely increased how much we were recycling. But definitely I could see why, like for smaller properties, urban, options, that it would be even more better suited, apartment dwellers. So I think I think definitely it's something we should. There's people still clamoring at the township who want them, like who are, when is the next round going to come out? I really want to be able to participate. So there's definitely demand for it. But I do think I'm supportive of, doing something again with it. But I think, yeah, to the point we need a bigger one. Even myself, I would like it to be bigger. Sometimes we would have another little pot beside so that, it's not all going to fit for today. If we were, depending on what we had been cooking that day, like if we're making like a chili for the week, maybe we would have more, stuff that one day. But I think, we do have to have a multi-pronged approach. Like, maybe for those who really are not interested or really need bigger, sort of the Cadillac of outdoor composters, maybe that's something we need to look at. And on Angie's point too about restaurants, like I don't know how much waste they make up in terms of the overall picture, but I mean, the commercial food cycler options, that might be something to think about as well for those businesses. Not sure. I mean, that's a whole other discussion, but it's something that, maybe we should think about. Okay. Go ahead, Angie.
Okay. Yeah, I was just touching on the business part of it, the restaurants. And if there was the NAV Center has a massive one, right, for all their food. That's the industrial one. But for larger ones and smaller restaurants, I think maybe a pilot project with restaurants and small businesses perhaps that serve food, because as someone who's worked in restaurants for over 20 years, there is so much food waste, and I loved having it when I worked at NAV. And I don't know, I would support something for the local restaurants or pubs and stuff. I know there's not many in South Glengarry compared to urban areas, but I think that perhaps we could maybe do something with them, as that's where a lot of waste does come from. I mean, maybe because I see it firsthand, so it's something that's really important to me, but I would support something in regards to restaurants, even if it is a smaller one, not the smaller one, but the larger of, but not the industrial size, the middle size, I guess, for local restaurants.
Not the one that's the size of a small car, but one that's sort of.
Yes, like the next size up, he was saying, like, I'm not sure if that would help, but I mean, maybe it'll help with half of the amount or some of the amount. I don't know. I mean, plate sizes are getting smaller due to food prices, but there is still a lot of food waste.
Mm-hmm. Was I the only one on the committee who had a food cycler? It was just me.
I did not have one.
I didn't apply because I don't have anything other than fruits and veggies, which goes in my compost.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I could have done, I think I would have liked to probably have my parents on it, but I didn't think of that at the time.
Okay. Okay, but so I don't hear anyone against moving forward, but I see folks having some questions on like applicability, going with a larger unit, making sure that it's not that it has a long lifespan, doesn't end up in landfill, the unit itself. Is that a fair or folks
I think
saying
if
like, no, we're done?
Continue with this. I mean, there should be more, like, I know it's hard with staff resources. Trust me, I know what that's like, but to have more outreach, education, maybe do something like pledge. I pledge to eat all my food on my plate. I don't know, something like that. I know there's like days of the years like food waste challenges and stuff, or Earth Day, but I think that, I mean, I've learned from municipality that can do these sorts of things, but have to have that kind of talk with people as well, so that they just don't rely on this this one item and kind of learn about it. Like, I'm so glad that some people did realize, the methane. And I honestly didn't know about the methane like several years ago. I thought, hey, yeah, why can't we throw that? I don't understand. And then having like compostable bags going to landfill, like even that too. And I learned that in university. So like I didn't even know at one point. So that's great that some people are learning that, but some people might not even consider looking up these things if they just hear about, oh, there's a food cycler project. So I know Crystal and Sarah, you guys don't have all the resources to be able to do that kind of stuff, but if you did, I would like to see something like that.
Did you want to jump in, Sarah?
Sure. I was going to say, I don't disagree. Education is very important. And I think that would likely be something handled through corporate services and not so much my department of infrastructure. Like we would have to collaborate since they push our information out for me. So we can definitely have that chat internally and see who may have time.
Going like with South Stormont or something, like using the counties and whatnot to do like a county-wide thing, because like climate change, food waste.
And now that we're the three, right? All the southern counties are doing a pilot. I mean, all the southern townships, I'm sorry, we're all doing it. So why not? Why not try to leverage county communication resources as well? And they're doing the regional waste study now, right? So again, there could be some overlap there.
Definitely. Let me run with that for a couple months and see what I can coordinate.
And even on the business side of things too, like with restaurants, and try to encourage them to do less food waste. I know that they're all frustrated with how the last 2 years have gone, but I mean, it could be something voluntary.
Is there much education done in schools for this stuff too? Like,
So
like you
we-
said, I only learned about this, you know, a couple of years ago. This wasn't something I learned in high school. Or
Through this program, we supplied food cyclers. We food cycler together, let's say, supplied a bunch of units to the local schools. So I know there's one at my children's elementary school. There's one at the high school. I think we did it
Okay.
to all. I mean, maybe Alex or Crystal. Like we got them to all the elementary schools, right? And at Charlan as well.
Yep. So Charlan, Williamstown, Nange Galdier, Iona. And am I
Did
forgetting
Holy
one?
Trinity get one or no?
Yes, at Holy Trinity. Thank you. And Alex had provided some resources for specifically for schools, and then they also got the participant guide because I know it was mentioned earlier. Colleen, you brought this up. If there was like a list of what you can put in there, and there was a graphic that that Alex provided. So the schools were really excited to have it. And the last I heard, they were moving it from classroom to classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So they would each have, you know, I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks a month to use it and learn about. I think they incorporated it into their lessons.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen photos from some of the classrooms with kids like showing what came out of it, and yeah, so there's definitely been some learning through our partnership with Food Cycler and this pilot that's gotten out to kids.
Good.
So do you have enough there, Alex, to work with? I mean, I think again, I mean, if I'm getting this wrong, I think, you know, people are let's move forward, but let's move forward in a way like let's see how we can be as targeted as possible and ensure that the units going forward are, you know, what seems to be the most popular with residents. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from the feedback is there's still a lot of opportunity to educate on backyard composting. And I think, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we really see this as something being ideally suited for those more urban parts of South Glengarry where something like backyard composting might be more challenging.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I have a super clear sense of direction, as there's not a specific ask, I guess, that we're making right now. But again, usually we work with staff on what the next steps might be. And if staff is looking into an organics program more broadly, I would expect this is something that they would consider, given how overwhelmingly positive the feedback was from everybody who did participate in the program.
Right, and they would be the ones hearing, like Crystal would be the one, well, Crystal or Sarah, in terms of hearing folks having continued interest in the program too, right? You have a waiting list?
Yeah, I can confirm that there's close to 100 people on a waiting list, and I get weekly emails from people who are interested in participating. And something interesting to note, I think a lot of seniors are actually interested in this because it's easier for them to compost. So I've had a lot of, you know, senior aged people reaching out and asking about it. I thought that was important to note too.
No. So definitely from a council perspective, if we have residents who are interested in it, that's definitely something that I think I would be very interested in trying to support them in that. Angie, you had something?
Yeah, no, Crystal, thanks for bringing that up with the seniors, because it reminds me of like seniors' homes as well too, as food waste resources. I'm sure there's lots of food wastes in seniors' residents and long-term care homes. And yeah, I think that's good too. Yeah, for seniors who probably can't walk out to their compost bin, can't turn the compost, can't use it. I didn't even think of that before. I was thinking more of adults, families, and urban settings. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Crystal.
Go ahead, Alex.
So I think if I'm hearing things right, probably the best next step would be to work with staff on more specific details of what something could look like and bring back a more specific recommendation from staff to council or to this committee, and perhaps leave it to staff for next steps. But I think the feedback I've heard is, it would have to be more targeted for specific areas, and we want to focus a bit more on education. But maybe I defer to you, Stephanie, or Crystal, or Sarah, as to how Food Cycler should continue to engage with the township on next steps.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, I think working with staff again, because we're providing recommendations, staff is receiving them, staff is also getting, input directly from residents. So they also have, an important part to, to how to move this forward. So, I think, having working with staff to come up with a recommendation for next steps, again, like we have folks who definitely want to continue participating. And if people want to participate, I'm assuming some are, I bet you there's lots that are in that urban segment and that senior segment, folks who can't compost regularly. So I think that in itself is targeted. If people are putting their hands up, they're self-identifying as wanting to participate, but then in having some more ideas. So I don't know if you can help us with ideas about restaurant composting or, sort of expanded education, if that's something that you can help with staff as well, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, I think we'd work under the direction of staff as to what some options could be for an expanded program, but probably wait more for staff direction on what type of proposal they'd like to receive about next steps, as I think there's some details and comments to work through, and also consider other options that might be on the table for organics as they build out a recommendation.
Yeah, there's all that whole other program. So Crystal and Sarah, you guys good with what's shared? Did you have questions of the committee on this or no? Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Alex. We really appreciate you taking the time to put together the presentation and walking us through it, and discussing with us and answering our questions on the Food Cycler unit, which I love mine. I definitely am not giving up mine. I'm continuing to use mine.
Thank you very much for your time, all the questions. And again, thank you very much to Crystal and the staff for doing such a great job running the program. So you're all aware, all that data was also submitted back to the Impact Canada group at the Government of Canada. And so hopefully we can get more funding to support future expansions of Food Cycler programs in your community and others. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of the evening.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so now for ongoing projects update, is that Sarah? Is that going to be you? Great, thank you.
That is, and this is going to be very quick because I don't have much to report back. So when we met in January, I believe, I briefly said that I'd received the waste composition study data, and I was super excited at the time because I thought I'd received the most recent data, but the data I'd received was winter 20 and 21. So that's a whole year back. And when I spoke with Stewardship Ontario on a date in late January, perhaps January 20th, they indicated that by the end of February, which was yesterday, we would have received the spring 21 and the summer 21 data. We have not, so still waiting for our information. So hopefully next time I'll have a bit more on the waste composition study results. In terms of a recycling summary, I briefly talked last time about our total tonnage for 2021, and it was 748 tons that we diverted through our recycling program, which cost about $230,000, let's say. And we sold here at the township approximately 41 blue bins in 2021, which is encouraging. And we have received our medium-sized bins. And I can't remember if I'd said that at our last meeting. So we now have the smaller bins and the medium-sized bins available for purchase here at the township office, which is nice, especially for people who were concerned about bin sizes. But with weekly recycling, hopefully those medium bins will be good enough. Well, not good enough.
How big are the medium bins? Like, do you know the volume?
Crystal, I think I'm looking at one, but I don't want to hold it up.
I don't know the volume off the top of my head, but if you give me a few minutes, Sarah, I'll pop on and let you know.
Okay.
Are they fairly sturdy? Like I'm familiar with like the standard kind of small. It's bigger than a banker's box. Maybe it's 2 banker's boxes, sort of blue bin. is it sort of the same, like sturdy construction, but just larger overall or taller?
Yeah, I've been using one at home and haven't had a problem. So we're not on a county road, but we're kind of rural. And it, I know it's only been a month, but it hasn't broke yet. It feels about the same.
Okay.
So that was
So that the 748 tons, that's our 2021 total?
correct.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
So hopefully that number goes up through 2022. And then for landfill updates, I don't really have anything. As far as I know, Chris, there's no operational updates that we need to bring to the committee's attention.
But Jennifer's also on the line with us too. Eh?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I can find my camera here. Try that. Yes, so I was just looking at North Lancaster data today because I'm trying to finalize that report. And I can say that we have improved slightly over last year with the recycling. I think the number was, and I don't have it in front of me, 731 tons for 2020. I think 2019 was quite a drop for us. I think we were 706, if I remember correctly. So it does sort of look like we're going on a slight upward trend. Hopefully with the weekly recycling, I'm kind of excited to see what next year will bring. And I'm hoping that we'll have improved numbers. Other than that, I don't have anything else landfill related or new or exciting about the landfills, which probably only excite me, but nothing else to report at this time.
It should excite us as well. It's a key part of our mandate of this committee.
That's true. That's true.
Angie, did you have a question on that one?
Wrong button again. Okay. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay. Yes, we are excited about that, Jennifer. This is why we're here. But now I forget what I was going to say. Oh, yes. So do you think maybe that people are just buying less and kind of, and that's why there's less of the recycling? There's just nothing to recycle, like not buying products that have things that toss, you think maybe?
If you're directing that to me, I don't know. I'd have to look at your waste composition study to see what was actually in the garbage bags and so on whenever they were torn open, and what the recycling comprised of. So I don't really have an answer for that as a whole.
It was more of a kind of comment than a question.
Yeah, I can say that the 2019 was quite a drop compared to historic values. I'd say historically for this township, like I said, I was just looking at the numbers today. We've been in the range of 760 tons down to, and that's our peak. I think we were there for 2 years since 2012. And then our low was the 706 in 2019. But if you take out those high and low outliers, I'd say we're usually around the 740 to 750 range.
I know speaking personally, I have a lot more recycling than I used to because I order a lot more things to my home that come in boxes. And so I have a lot more cardboard recycling than I used to, sadly.
Can you compost it?
I bundle it properly and I put it with my recycling, but okay. I guess I could compost it. But my understanding is corrugated is a high value product at the MRF, so they like having the corrugated. Okay. But you would know that answer.
There's too much for me to know.
Okay.
I can find out just randomly.
That's okay. Any other questions for Sarah with her update? Or Jennifer, since she's with us?
I believe I just saw Crystal walk by with a larger bin.
Oh,
I did.
Are you gonna Vanna White the bin for us? Okay.
They're quite sturdy. They're I think they're 35 gallons. 35 gallon bins.
They're probably that's why I'm not gonna say that's 35 because the big garbage bin is 32, and that's not bigger than.
Okay, so maybe
liters.
But anyways, with the logo.
Yeah.
but it's nice. Okay.
Not sure about the gallon amount, but this is the size of it.
So I could fit in it. Okay.
Yeah, you could.
We won't
They're
respect
good
you,
size. They're good size.
but they're similar in footprint, but taller than a standard recycling bin.
But I am high
Thank you.
value.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. So otherwise, we didn't have new business. And next meeting and landfill tour. I don't know if we want to try and plan that out now on when we could do a tour of the landfill, or when we want to have another meeting. I mean, for staff, I mean, in terms of if there is going to be next steps, I hope there will be next steps with Food Cycler about, if there's something for us to look at. I don't know what kind of time frame is reasonable. Same thing with the landfill tour, when you think that might be reasonable to do.
I was hoping, if I may, for the landfill tour to be after our leaf and yard waste pickup, so that we can see where that goes and what that looks like, which is early May. So I was thinking late May sometime.
Okay.
And not interfering with our free days or our, because I think that'll be a bit crazy.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, what's the free days? Sorry.
Our free
We have-
access days are Beaverbrook, May 24th and May 28th. That's a Tuesday and a Saturday. And North Lancaster is Saturday, June 4th.
Okay, so free day at the landfill. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for
All right.
free, residents' vehicles do need to be registered, but they're not paying the tipping fees.
That'd be something. Side note, maybe I always wonder if we could get away from having to have them registered. I mean, if they show up and they have ID, if that would not be sufficient. Sometimes folks, because they're not registered, they don't want to go to the office and fill out their forms and whatever. And if we have an intent.
Oh, sorry.
Go
Sorry.
ahead, Angie.
Sorry, I should use the little hand thing. Or if they get there with all their stuff and then they realize, oh, I'm supposed to register, and they'd be like, oh, I have to go back or register or whatnot. So yeah, I think that's a good recommendation there, to just have an ID.
I don't know all the why it exists, but
they should be able to register directly at the landfill sites. It's $10 to register. I don't think that's changed.
I didn't think they could register at the landfill sites. I thought we had to go to the office.
Our collections calendar does say which can be done at the township office or at the landfill sites.
Oh,
I
okay.
hope our collections calendar is correct.
Me too.
I'll have to read that again when I get home.
Okay. And then, okay, so for next meeting, so if staff is going to do something with Food Cycler, it probably makes sense for us to have a meeting after that. We don't need something too soon. So I don't know, Sarah, Crystal, what you think a time frame would be, like in 2 months, or?
Yeah, I'm just looking at a calendar here. So we're March 1st, April, May. I believe the big garbage pickup is not a big garbage pickup. Or yeah. So how about the 24th, which is a Tuesday, or the 31st? Is that too far down the line?
That's of May?
Yeah.
Okay. 24th is right after the long weekend.
Okay, so then
People
it
are
would be
going-
the 31st then, because that would be after
Leaf
the
and
big-
yard.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Colleen, did you want to talk?
Yeah, sorry, something that just popped into my head about the Food Cycler. Crystal, you would have all the addresses of the people that applied, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about like urban areas versus rural and who's got them, and my mapping brain just went to, maybe we could map out where these people live just to kind of see who did get one. I don't know if there's a confidentiality thing there in terms of.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, but if we did it anonymously, if we don't need to release the addresses, we can. Like
No,
you said,
just be
put it on
points on
map.
a map. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know if that
that's-
would interest people or not. I just,
Yeah.
for me, it
Interest
would.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
something
so
we
if,
can look into for sure.
okay.
I always forget that Glenn Walter is part of Glengarry. So that's
Don't
like,
say that. Don't say that, Angie.
I do. It's because it's so like close to Cornwall. But I mean, that's fairly getting pretty, densely populated. So I'm wondering how many people there would have used them.
So is May 31st okay with everyone?
Now, did you want to combine this with our tour?
Sarah?
Because I don't know if
Uh,
Colleen and Aiden would have to take time off work.
I will defer to you folks.
If folks want to tour, want to see the landfills, what works best for you? I mean, obviously it's going to be a bigger time commitment than what we normally do. Would you rather?
I'm good. I mean, I can go to landfill anytime, so I'm good whenever day. So whatever Colleen and Aiden can do.
I'm good any day. That's fine.
Like even during the day?
Yeah.
She'll make it a mapping project.
Yeah. I'll figure it out.
And Aiden will go like test some like ethanol or something and make it a work project.
Yeah, my schedule is fairly flexible. I don't know how long the tour will be or what not, but just if I have a heads up, I can arrange it.
So we'd be going to the boat. We'd be going both sites or just the one? Yeah, both sites. So probably like a 3. I mean, I'm just thinking like there looking, driving 3 hours.
I would think so, an afternoon or a morning.
Like if you want to do a meeting like before or after it, I can arrange for like meeting space in this like in the city, so we didn't have to go back and forth.
Not Cornwall. We wouldn't be going to the Cornwall landfill though. We'd be going to our like North Lancaster.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to the recycling facility. Sorry.
No, but we should. But I think right now we're talking about our landfills, right?
Did we talk about going to the recycling one at one time?
We went right before the pandemic, but I guess this group hasn't really had a chance to go yet.
But it's been revised since we went last.
Yeah, so that's probably something we want to do, but maybe that could be the next. That makes sense.
Okay, sorry, I was thinking recycling. I don't know why, since we talked about leaf pickup. Sorry, I'm too many landfills and stuff. Okay, so forget I ever said anything. People watching online.
Okay, so to the 31st of May, if that's a Tuesday. Okay, I mean, so do we want to, we'll pencil that in now. We'll do like the afternoon of the 31st of May.
Yeah, I'm thinking if I send a calendar invite from 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, I think the afternoon maybe would be, and then if anything changes, if Mike can't make it that day, if they have a council meeting in the north, or we'll just pivot from there. But tentatively, we'll book it in for May 31st from 1 to 4.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. So on that, are we good to?
I think there's just any new business. Did we? Oh, your sound just cut out, Stephanie. Or is it just me?
Oh, I can't hear her either.
She's muted.
No, she wasn't muted.
Oh,
No, we still can't hear you.
Now, one more time.
There
there
we
we
go.
go.
Okay, my headset died. That's why it was beeping in my ear, because it was telling me it was going to die. Okay, so I was asking for a motion to adjourn, if everyone was okay with adjourning on that note. Thank you, Colleen. So we have a motion to adjourn. Is anyone opposed to adjourning? No, great. All right, so it's carried. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a great evening. And we'll keep in touch and definitely see each other on the 31st.